Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing all things aerobic base. What even is the aerobic base? Why is it so critical for every single runner, no matter your distance? And why is it so misunderstood? I'll show you how it's helped me take 30 minutes off my marathon time in just 2 years and stay healthy for over 400 consecutive days of running. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the aerobic base, 5 key ways that you can implement it into your training, and a few key mistakes to avoid. The aerobic base, the foundation of it all. Let's dig in. Aerobic running first became popularized from the coach Arthur Lydiard. He came onto the scene in the mid-1900s in New Zealand, and he was a bit unorthodox in his training style. At that time, most of the middle distance runners were just doing blistering fast interval workouts on the track. For him, he took a step back and he had his runners do a lot more aerobic running. So even if they were an 800-meter runner, they were doing 100 miles a week. They were training like marathoners. This worked out great for him. He coached Olympic champions, Olympic medalists, world champions from the 800 meters all the way to the marathon. He was a legend in his own right, but a lot of people misunderstood his message. He was very big on periodized training. So the aerobic base foundation came first before he would move into more specialized training. Arthur Lydiard understood that the aerobic system takes much longer to develop than these other systems. Why is that? Because aerobic development happens on a cellular level. These sort of changes happening in your body don't happen overnight, obviously. They don't necessarily happen within a week or two. They usually take a couple months. Aerobic itself, that word just means with oxygen. Your body is exercising with enough oxygen present to sustain the exercise. A lot of people hear the word aerobic and immediately think it means slow or easy running. But that's not really what it means. Aerobic training just means that you're operating primarily on oxygen. When there is enough oxygen present, your cells are able to burn up fat as an energy source. Here's what's wild. The average runner has enough stored fat to run for about 4,000 minutes. That's almost 3 full days of continuous marathon effort. The key is training your aerobic system to access that energy efficiently. So that's why the base training matters. You're literally teaching your body how to tap into an unlimited fuel source instead of relying only on carbs. For a marathon race, it's about 95% aerobic. Nearly entirely aerobic. For something like the 800 meters, it's pretty much even. Super tough race, because you have to balance these out perfectly. Today, we're just talking about the aerobic system and how to train it up. It can be applied to cycling, swimming, cross-country skiing, any other endurance sports that require you to be cognizant of your effort levels and your heart rate level. Something super important here is that your aerobic system can only be developed while doing only aerobic running. This is a huge thing that people misunderstand, is that they do a couple weeks of easy running and they say, all right, let's get back to the speed work. Why that's an issue? When you no longer have enough oxygen to meet the energy demands, aka intensity is going up, you reach a threshold point. Some people may know it as your lactate threshold, your anaerobic threshold. No longer relying on your fats, and you need quicker energy. When that happens, there's a substance that's formed called lactate. As a result of burning up lactate for immediate energy, some hydrogen ions are released, causing some acid to be formed in your system. Now, too much acid causes those aerobic developments to stop. Before your cardiovascular system can continue to expand and strengthen, that acidosis has to be cleared out first. Now, the awesome thing about running at that lower effort zone, but for a longer time, for aerobic running, you're mainly using your slow twitch muscle fibers. Eventually exhaust those muscle fibers and you'll start recruiting more fast twitch muscle fibers. That sort of adaptation is amazing for runners because then you have access to more of your muscles. This is the safest and most effective way, in my opinion, of doing it, because while yes, you can also recruit these muscle fibers and train them with faster anaerobic work, you can also do more aerobic work by doing aerobic work for a longer duration. So a long, easy run is much safer and causing much less acidosis on the system, but you're still recruiting those muscle fibers. So if you're someone like a marathoner or a half marathoner, this is super, super critical that you do these sorts of runs and do more of them. It doesn't have to be one long run a week. You can do a couple of these as long as they're staying aerobic. Intensity increases in the exercise, oxygen levels tend to go down. There's no longer enough oxygen to sustain the exercise. Your body switches over from burning fat and starts using sugars, glycogen, carbohydrate stores for immediate energy. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No, absolutely not. While you're running, both of these energy systems are going to be present. It's not a binary thing where it's one or the other. Which system is more active for which race? Okay, it's all great and well, but how do I even train aerobically? How do I run aerobically? If you're just getting into running, you need to establish that foundation. How you do that, most of your runs should be at a conversational pace. You have to establish your body's ability to jog easily at first. So for someone brand new to running, this might just be 15-minute easy jog. Once per week, you can try to do double that. You could try to do a 30-minute really easy jog. What that's gonna do is that's gonna start to increase your aerobic capacity. For someone more advanced, someone who maybe has a smartwatch or a heart rate monitor, you wanna stay below 80% effort. Now, effort and heart rate, when we talk about heart rate, it's essentially your cost meter. It's your body's way of saying, this is how much energy I'm spending. So heart rate is a very important tool, especially in the aerobic base phase, to maintain that effort level, make sure that you're not working too hard. 80% effort can be calculated by what is called your heart rate reserve. So what your heart rate reserve is your maximum heart rate minus your resting heart rate. That is equal to your HRR, or your heart rate reserve. How do you find your max heart rate? How do you know your max heart rate? A general equation that you can use is the number 220 minus your age. So for me, I'm 29. That would mean my max heart rate would be 191 beats per minute. My actual is 195. You can see it's close. It's not always super accurate. This is a general rule of thumb. If you have a recent like 5K or all-out mile, the last couple minutes of the race, your heart rate probably got up to your max. We're just going to use this as an example for today. So this is my max heart rate, 195. For the resting heart rate, this is the lowest that your heart rate gets. So typically the lowest is in the morning before you even get out of bed. For someone who's trained for a while, it's usually in the 40s or the 50s. If you're still new to working out, it could be in the 60s or 70s. So your resting heart rate will decrease the more that you train. My resting heart rate is 45. So to calculate my heart rate reserve, 195 minus 45, 150 beats per minute, full range that my heart can go. Now, calculating your ideal aerobic zone, the top end of your aerobic zone is gonna be 80%. So to calculate that, for me, it'd be 150. 150 times 80% is 120. Now, you have to add back on your resting because that is your baseline. It's not like your heart rate's at 0. So you have to add on your resting. So 165 is the highest end of my aerobic zone. For sub-threshold training, you want to be between 80% and 75%. So do the same thing, 13 plus 45. So this window right here is my sub-threshold window. My threshold is 85%, is 173. My watch tells me it's around 176, so somewhere in that range. Lowest end of your aerobic zone is 50% of your heart rate reserve. So for me, lowest end, 50% is 120 beats per minute. This is very low end. This is mainly for recovery. Below 120 beats per minute, you're not getting any aerobic benefit, so you want to stay above that. Most of your aerobic running can be done between like 60 to 70%. Your bread and butter aerobic is where you can spend most of your mileage throughout the week. For sub-threshold, this is once or twice per week for up to an hour. So after you get up to an hour, you're risking just overtraining a little bit because you are so close to threshold. For these recovery runs, these can be used, before or after the sub-threshold days. A lot of my long runs actually will be between like 120 and 135 in the beginning. I'll go up from there. So just so I have these numbers on here, 60%, 135, 70%, 50. So yeah, that 150 to 135, spend a ton of time in that heart rate zone. You're getting a ton of aerobic benefits. You're not risking overtraining by getting too close to threshold. A lot of people do their easy runs a bit too close to the 70%. You don't have to spend all of your time here. You do get a lot of benefit from running down here as well, because you can run for a lot longer. It's really teaching your body to use the fat for energy, very low intensity, so it's not as taxing on your system. So I highly encourage you to calculate this for yourself, to find your aerobic zone. Again, this is gonna be 50 to 80%. You wanna stay here. So it's not just easy running, just sub-threshold. It's about hitting all of these heart rates, these effort levels at a variety of different distances. I'm gonna make a separate video really deep diving on the sub-threshold runs, but for now, just know that this is your full range. The first key to an aerobic base is staying 100% aerobic the entire time. Now, obviously, if you're doing a long run and it's super hilly, towards the end, you're getting up close to your threshold. It's kind of impossible to avoid, right? The point is here, there's no specific threshold targeted workouts. It's going to cause acidosis and therefore cause the aerobic positive adaptations that you're having to stop. So none of that. Stay aerobic the entire aerobic build. Number 2, how long to do this for? 12 weeks. 12 weeks is the bare minimum for these adaptations to really stick and make an impact on your running. So you can see why this might not be so popular nowadays, is because a lot of other running training plans, this is your 8-week from couch to 5K training guide. It may work for some people. Obviously it has worked for some people in the past, but it's not the most effective way to properly train. And if you want to stay healthy and consistently get better and progress, this is the way to do it. Okay, number 3 is be consistent but add variety. You know how we talked about that range? You want to be hitting lengths and distances all within that range. The lower you are to that 50 or 60%, the longer you can go for it, right? So those could be your longer, easier days. Doesn't mean it's slow, but it's just targeted aerobic development. You're just staying in that effort level to make sure that you're getting those aerobic benefits. A 3-mile jog at that effort, it's fine at first, but eventually you want to work up into the double digits, right? You want to be getting like 15-mile runs in the middle of your week at that effort level. It should be really nice pace. It should be really enjoyable. Naturally over the build, the pace will drop, but just stay at that effort level at first and the results will come. If you're someone that's newer to running and you find yourself just running a couple miles and then gassing yourself out, it's really important to slow down, make sure you're at that lower end of the aerobic zone and start to run longer. That is gonna boost up your aerobic system like crazy. It's gonna start these adaptations that we're talking about. You wanna do variety. You don't wanna go run 10 miles every day at the same pace, the same effort level, on the same route. You wanna mix it up. Instead of doing 10 miles every day, you'd be better off running 5 one day, a bit faster, and then 15 the next, a bit slower, a bit more controlled. It's gonna stimulate the aerobic system in different ways than if you were just doing the same thing continually. It's the very reason there's no cookie cutter aerobic base plan, because it's very intuitive. You have to know, okay, how long can I run at this effort level? Obviously I'm at the upper level of my aerobic zone, but like if I push too hard, am I gonna go into threshold? Okay, that's my limit. And maybe you struggle with that really easy running. Like maybe you're used to training super hard and running really fast paces that running at that 50 to 60% level is like really difficult for you. So maybe that's where you need to focus more of your time. Once per week, it's good to mix in a fartlek. So if you don't know what a fartlek is, it's speed play. It's running a bit harder, then slowing down. Running a bit harder, then slowing down. This is a great way to add variation. Mix up the intervals. Maybe some days it's just 2 minutes at marathon effort. Or maybe it's a little bit faster some days, but just don't dip into that threshold. Do them on a normal running course, rolling hills, whatever it is. Okay, I'm gonna run hard up to the top of this hill, let my heart rate recover. Mix it up, make it fun. Don't make it so rigid that you have to hit exactly 3.5 minutes on this rep or 1K repeats. The key is to run a ton of different efforts within that aerobic window and different distances. So 4th, kind of piggybacks off that last point, is make it personalized to you, right? If you don't have a coach, if you're doing this on your own, someone who's chasing that sub 3-hour marathon versus someone who's just trying to complete their first marathon, the goals are a bit different. You may have some aerobic foundation from growing up playing soccer or playing basketball, or you ran a year of college track. Everyone has different starting points and different goals. So figure out what that is for you and adapt that, mold that into your program. If you've never ran over 50 miles a week, don't just go in, start running 70 miles a week, but you're like, oh, it's all aerobic, I should be fine. Obviously, your body still needs to be gradually eased into it. Depending on your experience level and depending on if you actually follow the training, you can run every day if you want. I'm not saying that you don't ever need a rest day. If you have a certain day that's always off for you, you always take off Sundays, that's fine, that's great. Just don't let it turn into the next week you're taking multiple days off, because it becomes easier to start skipping days, skipping workouts. For these aerobic benefits to really take heed, you have to be training them 5 to 6 days a week. So be super consistent with this and the results will come. And the 5th is stay patient. There's a reason that this is a 3-month program. There's a reason this is not a super sexy double threshold workout that's gonna get you fit overnight. No, this is something that's gonna set you up for long-term development and success. It's going to help you get your body back on track if you've been dealing with a bunch of injuries or not progressing in your times. You're building a foundation for your house. It would be like, building 3 corners and then skipping the 4th and being like, I'm ready to move on to the next. How do you think that's gonna fare for you once you get up to building the roof and start moving stuff in and then complete the foundation? 12 weeks, all aerobic running, add variation. I know it can be frustrating, especially for me when I was like, I really wanted to break 3 hours for the marathon for the first time. I was like, I want to know exactly how hard, what pace, and how far I'm running, right? Like, I want to know all of that. Just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. It's very much, again, intuitive, listening to your body, seeing how your body's reacting to the training and staying the course. Knowing your limits, getting close to your limits without going over them, letting your body recover, letting your body rest, doing it all again. Guys, all this to say, I'm just kind of reiterating some of Arthur Lydiard's messaging, what's worked for me in my training, and it's just something to consider. If you've tried all these other ways of working out and running and they haven't worked for you, or you're just looking for a change, a way to get back on track, get healthy again, this could be for you. A book I highly recommend is called Healthy Intelligent Training by the late great Keith Livingstone. He was one of Arthur Lydiard's pupils. It's the best summary of Arthur Lydiard's work put into a great book, and it's something I'm still learning from to this day. There's a few different ways to skin a cat. This is just one way to help getting your running back on track. Ooh, I like that run. Have fun. Happy running, y'all. See you in the next one.